Hey guys, just like the title of today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys some basics of a yoga practice, learning how to do a proper Chaturanga, Sun Salutation A's, and Sun Salutation B's. So as you can see here, I'm prepping to do my Chaturanga. A Chaturanga is just going from high plank down to low plank. You'll swoop up into an upward facing dog. You're on the tops of your feet, lifting yourself off of the ground, and you'll tuck your toes and move back to a downward facing dog. Slowing it down, I want you to see how I go from a high plank to a low plank, keeping my elbows tucked in by my side. I untuck my toes, bring myself forward as I swoop up into my upward facing dog. In my upward facing dog, I'm only on the tops of my feet. My thighs are engaged and lifted off of the ground. My shoulders are away from my ears as I push myself up away from the ground. Tuck my toes and move back into a downward facing dog. Again, we are starting in a high plank. You'll go from high plank down to low plank, keeping the elbows tucked in and trying to keep the elbows above the wrist. Shift yourself forward as you move up to an upward facing dog, and you will come onto the tops of your feet, pushing the ground away from you. Some tips here is that it is very important to make sure that your thighs are not laying down on the ground and that your shoulders are away from your ears. Keeping your legs on the ground is actually a cobra pose instead of an upward facing dog. So as you can see here, my thighs are just barely off of the ground and only the tops of my feet and my hands are on the ground, pushing myself up away from it. Moving into our sun salutations, it is important to understand why we practice these movements. Sun salutations give us a great warm-up to the rest of our yoga practice, but most importantly give us a chance to experience a transformative release of personal obsessions and burdens, allowing ourselves to connect to 1, our breath, inhaling and exhaling through each movement, and 2, a spiritual or soulful power opening the mind to a peaceful meditation. Here I am just moving through some cat-cows, warming up the body before I begin to tuck my toes and push myself back into my downward facing dog. Here I'm pedaling it out, making sure I'm in my correct position. I want to make sure there's space between my shoulders and my ears. I'm lifting my tailbone high into the sky and sinking my heels down into my mat. Pedaling it out here, moving my head around side to side, making sure I am warmed up and limber. To begin your sun salutation, you can step or hop forward into a forward fold. In your forward fold, you can gently grab the back of your ankles or your calves and pull yourself towards your legs. You can also keep the knees bent if you need. For my forward fold, I'm going to rise a vertebrae at a time, and with the sweeping motion, raising my arms into the air. I'm going to make sure all 4 corners of the feet are flat on the ground and a lengthening stretch through the arms, through the spine, through the neck. A popular variation of Sun Salutation A is to open up to each side, dropping one arm down and reaching the other over. And then from here, moving into a cactus position where you cactus your arm, arch your back, and lift your heart center up towards the sky. And then from there, you'll come down into a swan dive, back into our forward fold. We'll inhale, halfway look up. That means you come up with a flat back, let your hands dangle. You'll exhale, plant the hands on the ground. Step back with the opposite foot than you did before, and take your proper Chaturanga, high plank down to low plank, to an upward facing dog, back into our downward facing dog. There are many variations of Sun Salutation B, but the only difference from A to B is the inclusion of our chair posture, moving into our warrior ones. So moving from our downward facing dog, we're going to either step or hop into our forward fold. From our forward fold, we're going to inhale, rise straight into our chair posture. Here I'm going to exhale, my hands behind me, and inhale, lift my toes off of the ground. Exhale, coming back to our chair posture. I'm going to inhale, rise to my mountain. Exhale, swan dive back into my forward fold. Inhale, halfway look up. Exhale, plant my hands on the ground. Stepping back with the opposite foot, I'll take my Chaturanga to my upward facing dog, back into my downward facing dog. To continue, I'll inhale, lift my right leg into the air, exhale, plant it in between my hands, inhale, come up to my warrior one. Exhale, I push back to my plank. You have the option to take a chaturanga here, or you can just push back into a downward facing dog. You'll inhale, lift the left leg, exhale, plant in between the hands, inhale, lift back up to that warrior one, exhale, coming back down. In your warrior ones, you want to make sure that your hips are facing towards the front of the room and that back heel is flat down on the ground. That's it for today's intro to basic yoga movements. Keep practicing those until I see you the next time. Bye!